that sits in a pedestal of great pride doing this great task, Madam Speaker, this afternoon, because if there is a single government policy in the present administration's manifesto, otherwise known as a plan, that I strongly believe in and know that has the power to transform our country from a country that is dogged with poverty, sickness, and all the challenges that you can imagine, think of a poor African economy, and catapult us, Madam Speaker, into a middle-income status, courtesy of good planning, Madam Speaker, visionary leadership, and the determination to do the right thing, then it is this affordable housing program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, many times when members of this House travel to various parts of the world, they are impressed by how cities are properly planned. They are impressed by how nations confront their challenges, Madam Speaker, and set their countries on a path of prosperity by making bold decisions. The affordable housing program, Madam Speaker, is a bold program. Madam Speaker, the reason we are here today is that you are aware that in November of 2023, the High Court ruled, Madam Speaker, that the affordable housing levy lacked a legal framework for implementation of the affordable housing program. And therefore, the court ruled further as well that in the context in which the levy had been designed, it was discriminatory. Discriminatory, Madam Speaker, because the levy is only charged upon those that are salaried employees. The rest of the citizens don't pay of it. And it has been debatable, Madam Speaker, why you are levying only salaried Kenyans. And therefore, there was an argument, which I don't agree with, Madam Speaker, but because we are a constitutional democracy, I respect the verdict of the court, though I greatly disagree with it in their view and the direction that we should charge this levy to all Kenyans, because by and large, that is what the courts are telling us. That is what LSK, for example, as an institution, are telling us as Parliament to do, that every Kenyan, including the ordinary citizens, those that they sometimes purport to represent in petitions, must pay this particular levy, Madam Speaker. It was the general thinking of many of us that given the fact that we live in almost a quasi-socialist state, Madam Speaker, any adult who lives in this country and has gone through public education has been educated through the taxes of other Kenyans. All of us in this House, Madam Speaker, including the members of staff. The reason why we have formal education is because those that in the 70s, in the 80s, and in the 90s when we went to school, there were people who were working, whose salaries were deducted, and that is what paid for our education. And the thinking then at that particular time was that to move forward this particular nation and to move citizens who don't live in decent households. Madam Speaker, further on while moving this bill, I'd wish to challenge people to read, because I've seen some fools out there tell us, who told you that Kenyans don't have houses? The Constitution does not just talk about houses. It talks about decent houses with access to good sanitation. And Article 43, economic and social rights in this country, Madam Speaker. Therefore, it was a thinking at that particular time that those of us that are well-to-do, that have a salary, that we form a very small portion of our country, Madam Speaker, would do well to support this program so that it benefits the entire country. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, LSK and the courts and all those that petition have asked that this be levied on all Kenyans, including those that don't have a salary. Since, like I have said, we are a constitutional democracy, we are left with very little to do other than to pass the bill as now proposed, so that for anybody to benefit under this program, be it under affordable or social housing, because there are two parts of this program, Madam Speaker, then they must at least pay something. It's not a very bad thing, Madam Speaker, because it's a show of commitment also on our citizens. Of course, Madam Speaker, the second thing is that it provides a legal framework establishing the board and the institution that will run this particular fund, Madam Speaker. I want to congratulate the Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing for working expeditiously over the last few days in ensuring that they give us this program. They ensure that they guide the House. I have seen they have tabled their report, Madam Speaker. They have listened to Kenyans. I followed last week when presenters came before them, including Juakali workers ordinary citizens who are going to benefit out of this program, young people. In fact, Madam Speaker, affordable housing program is the wrong title for this program. This should be the jobs program for ordinary citizens, Madam Speaker, because millions of young people are going to be employed, from plumbers to masons, electricians, architects, carpenters, name it all, Madam Speaker, caretakers, many jobs that you can imagine that will arise out of the successful implementation of this program. The UN Habitat, Madam Speaker, has told us that by 2063, more than 50% of the world will be living in urban areas. When you fail to plan, Madam Speaker, you are planning actually to fail. If as a country we don't make a decision on what we are going to do with our urban population that is spiraling and growing, Madam Speaker, then in another 10, 20 years, we shall have slums in every part of this country. There is no county that you can think of that doesn't have a slum today because of lack of planning, because there is a need for housing within urban centers, Madam Speaker, yet there is no supply. The market has failed to supply good, decent, affordable houses, Madam Speaker. People don't live in the informal settlements in this city, for example, the Mukurus and the Kiberas, for lack of it. They would wish to live in a house with a good toilet, with a warm shower, Madam Speaker, but those houses are not affordable. They are not available. And that's why this program, like I've said, is revolutionary, can only be implemented by a bold leader. And I want to congratulate His Excellency the President. Because of the bold decision, he has spoken about this to the charging of many, including even some of his supporters, Madam Speaker, especially the salaried lot, who don't want to pay a price of patriotism. Yet, like I have observed earlier, anybody in this country who is an adult over the age of 18 and has gone through public education, Madam Speaker, needs to know that the most subsidized program in this country is our education program, right from 1963, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I went through Moi University, for example, for 4 years. The only fee that I paid is a total of 80,000 to get a university degree, 20,000 each financial year. It's because there were other Kenyans who were working and they were paying for my university education. How can I today look at them and claim, Madam Speaker, that I cannot part with 5,000 so that other citizens can live in decent households? There is no program under this administration that I believe better than this affordable housing program, Madam Speaker. Therefore, I want to urge colleagues, I don't intend to be extremely long on it, because I know many colleagues want to speak on this particular program, Madam Speaker, and go into the details. But I urge you to support this program. It is properly defined. Now we have set the legal framework. We have set up the body that will guide the use of these funds, together with the CEO, and how to look into the issues of corporate governance of this fund, Madam Speaker. There is now no excuse why this program cannot run. Therefore, Madam Speaker, in the interest of time and to provide opportunity for many of our colleagues who want to speak into this program, I beg to move and request the Senator for Kiambu, Chairperson of Roads, Transport and Housing Committee, to second me. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Majority Leader.